Surprise, surprise. Jeffrey Epstein, registered sex offender and mega millionaire, connected to some very powerful people, magically commits suicide right before some very important information comes out. Also, how to get an abortion if you're a teen. Brought to you by the so trustworthy source of Snapchat and Vogue. Not at all. Also, Taylor Swift, she is totally swinging with this political content, and you hear a little bit of her commentary on why and how it's so good for her to get political this election season. Then we go over the newest in trash music by Ariana Grande. I know I seem to pick on her a lot, but she has true trash music. Well, we talk about her latest song, Boyfriend. All that on Deconstructing Your Culture. I am your host, Elisa Steele. Before we fully dive into today's loaded podcast episode, I want to remind you that the podcast is amazing. I know, trust me, I developed it. But on top of that, you don't want to miss out on the other amazing conversations and debates that happen on my social media. Go find me on Twitter for fire tweets every once in a while when I feel like getting into the Twitter universe, and then I actually usually leave for an extended period of time because it's kind of toxic. So go at your own risk to the Twitterverse. I am on Facebook quite a bit, and you can find some really great articles. I stay especially up to date with the pro-life movement there and share a lot of other people's content that you would really like. So go to Facebook and make our friendship official. Then you're going to find some of the more interesting dialogues on Instagram. Instagram's where I take screenshots of people's awful messages to me or comments and reply to them in my stories. So my stories, I think you'll find especially entertaining, or if not entertaining, then, I don't know, laughable. This weekend, actually, I got into it with a person in my comments who said that it was part of God's plan for polygamy to be like a condoned version of family, which if you read your Bible, you know is not the case. I dare anyone to go in the Bible and find anywhere a place where God commands his people to live polygamy. Spoiler alert, you won't find it. Well, I had that conversation and so much more on Instagram, especially in my stories, so go check that out and follow it. Put on your alarms, set your alarms so that when I post my stories that you'll see them immediately. And I promise you, if you're not entertained, then you'll at least become as cynical as I am about the world of the intranet. All right, now let's dive into this week's podcast. Now, I remember, and if you've been listening to my podcast for a minute, you'll remember I've kind of addressed this story before, but it's How to Get an Abortion If You're a Teen, presented by Vogue. Well, guess what? Vogue teamed up with another disgusting outlet for young people, Snapchat. Now, if you've heard me talk about Snapchat, I think it's disgusting. It's a cesspool. Every time I think, you know what, Elisa, I'm going to go and influence people on the world of Snapchat, bring some common sense. I get on there and it's so polluted and so nasty and so dark and so blatantly pornographic that I end up deleting the app within a matter of hours, record maybe a couple of days, because it's disgusting. Well, on Vogue, how they operate on Snapchat is they literally have graphics saying how to get an abortion if you're a teen. And this post continues on with saying, well, your parents basically, even if you're under 18, abortion access is your right, regardless of your parents' beliefs. Unfortunately, not every state legislator agrees. So the first step is knowing your state's rules and when it comes to parental consent. And then it tells you how to get around your parental consent, about judicial bypass procedure, which I've talked about in another episode you can go check out, which just proves my point that I don't think, and a lot of you are young people listening to this, so you may strongly disagree with me, but I don't think young people should be on social media, honestly. I mean, I think there's a strong case to be made that a lot of, even adults shouldn't be on social media, but young people especially, I'd say at least under the age of 17, should not be on social media. Not only do they not fully understand the concept that once you put something on the internet, it is there forever. Even if you think it's only there for 13 seconds and you deleted it, it's there forever, honey. Well, I don't think teens fully understand that concept, first of all. But second of all, they just haven't even lived enough life. They don't have enough life under their belt to understand this. So even if it's a teenager coming from a conservative household that is pro-life, they go out, they have sex, they messed up. They are just at this point panicked and trying to maybe get out of the situation. Maybe they don't have a great relationship with their parents, and so they don't feel like they can go to their parents about what to do with this unplanned pregnancy. Well, instead, we have messengers like Vogue on Snapchat and all the other social media platforms. Let's get real, it's everywhere. Telling teenagers you have a right to abortion when these teenagers don't even understand what abortion is. They literally can't go see the movie Unplanned about abortion and Abby Johnson's career in the Planned Parenthood organization. They literally can't see that without parental consent. But in some states, they can go get an abortion without parental consent. And they just don't have enough life experience to realize what they're doing. There's a reason why teenagers shouldn't be getting abortion. No one should be getting an abortion, but especially not teenagers, because they don't understand the gravity of what's going on. And it makes it even worse, much worse, that we have these social media platforms spending endless hours with our youth, convincing them of lies, like it's just a clump of cells, it's not a baby yet, it's your right to have an abortion. Ugh, I digress. Essentially, the moral of the story is Snapchat's disgusting. Basically, I don't think that young people, and children especially, I think they should have very limited to zero access to social media until their brains have had a chance to develop, because it leaves them already in a world full of corruptness and lies. It gives the world a direct plug-in access to your teenager or your child for many hours a day, more access and more one-on-one time than most parents have with their children. Think about it. Even homeschool parents, that much undivided attention and time to connect with your teenager and teach them their way of the world than most parents have with their teenager. That's what I gotta say on that. Now, speaking of lies being told, so do you guys remember Benefit Cosmetic? Do you guys remember a few months when Mac and Benefit teamed up and decided to do a Planned Parenthood campaign, and they donated and did ongoing donations to Planned Parenthood, massive amounts of money? Well, here's the irony. There's this model with Down syndrome, and she's become the face of the beauty brand Benefit Cosmetics. And what I just think, so first of all, let me just read you a little bit about this, and then I'll talk about why this is so disturbing. So the popular fashion brand Benefit Cosmetic has chosen a girl with Down syndrome not only for marketing campaigns, but also as the ambassador of their whole brand. The heroine of our story, as this article puts it, Kate Grant, is a 20-year-old girl who has dreamt of a career in the fashion industry through her entire life. She received the crown in the Team Ultimate Beauty of the World pageant, and that paved her way to appear on national television during This Morning program in 2018. She's always wanted to be the first model with Down syndrome, and yeah, her dream came true when Benefit Cosmetic realized what a kind and beautiful woman Kate is. They never hesitated to give her this massive opportunity. The company has branched all over the world, and now Kate is featured in their latest eyeliner products. The company has taken the right initiative in changing the norms of beauty industry, and Kate undoubtedly is the best person for this challenge. This is the high time for all of us to change our conventional mindset and look out of the box, and do congratulate Kate and the Benefit Cosmetic for its huge success. So, in large part, I agree. It is awesome that this girl with Down syndrome is able to achieve her dreams and is being welcomed into an industry that she has always wanted to, and maybe have been harder for her to enter into, being Down syndrome. But, and this is where I feel very cynical, but this is very true, because I don't think it's really registered with the world when they're sharing these kind of articles, because even my conservative friends and acquaintances are sharing this and celebrating this, and it's great. That is great. But what's gross about this is the makeup company that, let's see, this girl's 20 years old, 21, maybe even 20 and a half years ago, when she was in the womb, they would have opted to kill her simply based on her difference, by being Down syndrome, by being a little different than normal people, quotations around that. They would have opted to kill her with no remorse. In fact, they're giving lots of money to kill babies just like Kate with no remorse. So I think it's kind of gross and really dirty for them to, on one hand, celebrate Kate as a first model with Down syndrome, but then on the other hand, mass murder and promote the mass murder and pay for the mass murder of millions of babies like Kate. What about their chance? I just want to point that out. I just want to say I have mixed feelings about boycotts, but I won't buy MAC or Benefit makeup anymore. Just no, not happening. Now, speaking of hypocrisy, Taylor Swift, she just got hit hardcore on Twitter by Kid Rock. He came out with a tweet and said, Taylor Swift wants to be a Democrat because she wants to be in movies, period. And it looks like she will suck the doorknob off Hollywood to get in there. Oldest move in the book. Good luck, girl. So, first of all, okay, that's kind of admitting that Hollywood really only admits and promotes super, super liberal, Democrat-minded individuals. But on top of that, it was Taylor Swift's comments, her own comments on her political activism that really kind of made me chuckle. She said in May, she acknowledged that her music is becoming more political and she's trying to promote an agenda. And she said, quote, I definitely think there are political undertones to the new music I've made. I'm not planning to stop encouraging young people to vote and try to get them to talk about what's going on in their country. I think that's one of the most important things I could do. Really, Taylor? Really? Because you just came out with a song that completely made everyone who disagreed with you in the LGBT movement out to be uneducated people who can't spell, as basically like white trash trailer hicks. And you think that's promoting people voting and encouraging a conversation in our country? Really, Taylor? Really? Okay. Well, I think your version of encouraging a conversation and my version of encouraging a conversation might be a little different, because what I see you doing is actually tromping on women's rights and the pro-love, pro-women movement. If you were really caring about that, you'd be supporting the pro-life movement, and you wouldn't be making nasty, hateful songs making everyone who disagrees with you a backward villain. Just saying, that's not promoting conversation. Now, before I continue on with the rest of the podcast, I want to ask you and encourage you to please leave a 5-star review, especially on iTunes and YouTube. It really helps in the rankings. I take the time to read every single one of your reviews. They are very meaningful to me. I really actually even appreciate your constructive criticism. I would ask, though, if you have constructive criticism, to please maybe refrain from posting a review until after we've talked, or send me an email. I'm serious, at conservativebabes@gmail.com. I read all of my emails and reply to most of them. Unless you're crazy, then I'll probably just delete it. But no, if you have constructive criticism, you have ideas on how to make the show better, please send that to me. I do read them. I do take them seriously. I take them into account. And yeah, I know I've made fun of a couple of your reviews in the past. You'll have to listen to my other episodes to hear that. But for the most part, if you have actual real feedback, I do take that really seriously. So like this, follow, subscribe, leave a 5-star review. You're awesome. Okay, now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Jeff Epstein. He is a registered sex offender and millionaire financier facing trial for alleged sex trafficking. He just committed suicide in his Manhattan jail Saturday morning. What? I thought he was on suicide watch. I thought that was so intense that you couldn't, like, there was no way you could do anything. Now, ABC News reported that the 3 law enforcement officials confirmed the death on the outlet. The New York Times reported that Epstein had hung himself, and his body was found Saturday morning around 7:30 a.m. Epstein's suicide also comes just after he named several prominent Democrats as members of his alleged sex ring. Fox News reporter former Senator George Mitchell and Bill Richardson and former governor of New Mexico and a member of President Bill Clinton's cabinet were named. I just find it really suspicious, the timing. I just think, couldn't have brought him to justice and gotten all the information that would have incriminated all the other sickos in his pedophile ring. One of my favorite tweets. just gonna leave this where it's at, but one of my favorite tweets was by Matt Walsh. And I just want to do shout out for Matt Walsh. I've literally been reading him since I was probably, 13. And I remember when he used to write for The Blaze, and he used to write these super, super long diatribes, and I would read them all the way through. Matt, you're awesome, by the way. But he wrote this tweet on Twitter, and he said, a global sex trafficker who could implicate some of the richest, most powerful men on earth as pedophiles died in his jail cell while under suicide watch in federal prison on the very night his case files were unsealed. I'm officially a conspiracy theorist on this one. Yeah, I raised my eyebrows too. Matt. I'm just gonna leave that tweet right there. And I think I'm a conspiracy theorist on this one too. There you go. All right, this week's book. Now, I want you to listen carefully because I'm not usually a crier in books, but I cried pretty heavily in this book. It was called Born Survivors by Wendy Holden. Essentially, it is the story following 3 women who all got pregnant during the Holocaust of the Jews, and they all got pregnant in Auschwitz, and miraculously, it's crazy when you listen to these stories, absolutely mind-blowing, but they miraculously, somehow, time after time, evaded death for themselves and their unborn children, and then their children later when they were born. Miraculously survived. Their babies were so little and so malnourished. They weighed like 3 pounds. They should not have survived. It's a pure miracle that they survived. And it follows these 3 women and their 3 babies being born in these awful death camps and work you to death camps. And one of the craziest moments is a mother, right after she gives birth to her baby, she's literally put in a gas chamber with tons of other people. And then crazily, miraculously, that day, the gas chambers ran out of Zyklon B. They just ran out. So after sitting in the gas chamber for a while and it just didn't work, they were let out and they survived another day. Absolutely mind-blowing. Now here's the part that really gets me. And forgive me if I get a tiny bit emotional. Here's the part that gets me when I was reading this book. Is after the war ended, right after the war ended, and the American troops came in and found the pure atrocity of evil in these camps, the American citizens and the American troops were so horrified, and even more, they were horrified that the townspeople just right next door to these camps did nothing about it. And these townspeople swore up and down they had no idea. They didn't know. And they swore that they didn't benefit from it, and they didn't know what was happening when all these people were dying and disappearing and being marched right past them. And the ash was landing in their town and covering their town. And the people, in some cases, the townspeople complained that they didn't like the ash. And so they started, this particular camp decided to acquiesce, and they burned the bodies at night instead. So these townspeople swear up and down they didn't know this was happening. And they're horrified. And so the American troops in some of these camps forced these townspeople to volunteer, forced them, so you know how voluntary that was, to help disinfect these people's clothes, to burn their clothes, to bury the bodies, to dig the graves. And the people were crying and swearing they didn't know what happened. Now this is the part that gets to me. This should never happen again. It should have never happened in the first place. And it should never, ever happen again because this was so horrendous. And I don't think that there's an excuse for people to have not known and not done something about it and not have any suspicions. To me, this parallels to today. It really does. And I don't say this to make light of the Holocaust. I actually say this just so that we can fully understand the gravity of today's situation. Today, millions and millions of babies are being killed. They are being slaughtered. They are being put in massive barrels where it's blood and body parts. And I imagine if someday, and this will probably never happen, but I imagine if someday the people who deny that abortion is killing a child, the people who deny that this is happening, the people who refuse to admit that these abortion clinics just down the street from them are murder clinics, that if they somehow were forced to, like the people who were forced with the concentration camps, forced to see the atrocity, if somehow our civilization was forced to see the atrocity of abortion, if they had to take those body parts and reassemble them and lay them to rest in a respectful way so that they could fully comprehend the atrocity that's happening right next to us every day. Now, this is never going to happen. I don't think so, at least. It'd be crazy if it did, but I just can't help but wonder, the same way that we judge those people who let the Jewish concentration camps kill millions of individuals without raising an eyebrow, without saving them, without asking questions, without intervening. If someday the way we judge them, and God probably judges their soul, if God will judge me and you, if God will judge me and you for having a murder clinic, a murder camp just down the road from us, if we didn't do anything about it, what is the judgment on our souls when there are mass murder clinics right next door to us? For many of us in every city, for many of us at least in every state. And what is that condemnation on our soul if we see and know the truth and don't do anything about it? Just gonna leave that right there. Now we're gonna go real quick into a lighter topic, equally as gross, actually. No, not equally as gross. I can't even really compare anything to the Holocaust of unborn babies, but different subject. We're going to talk about Ariana Grande's newest trash song, Boyfriend. It's by Ariana Grande and Social House, and I would play you part of it, but YouTube hates me when I play a part of the music, and also I don't think you would actually enjoy this, because not only is it trash music, but like every other word's a profanity, so just imagine how awful the song is, and I'll read you the lyrics, okay? She starts out, I'm a mother bleep train wreck. Okay, we know that. I don't want to be too much, but I don't want to miss your touch. Okay, so she's admitting she's a wreck, total complete wreck, but she misses him. Okay, great. And I don't seem to give a bleep, and I don't want to keep you waiting, but I do just what I have to do, and I might not be the one for you, but you ain't allowed to have no boo. So translating into English, she's saying, I don't really care about your life or what your needs are or who's right for you. And yeah, I'm actually not right for you at all, but you're not allowed to have anyone else in your life, a girlfriend or anything. That's what that means in English. She continues, because I know we be so complicated, okay, but we be so smitten, it's crazy. I can't have what I want, but neither can you. Translation, we don't have a good relationship. It's really messed up. But I'm going to have it my way, even if it makes us both miserable. She continues, you ain't my boyfriend and I ain't your girlfriend, but you don't want me to see nobody else and I don't want you to see nobody, but you ain't my boyfriend and I ain't your girlfriend, but you don't want me to touch nobody else, baby. We ain't got to tell nobody. So they're not boyfriend and girlfriend. Got it. Cleared. And they don't want them to be with anyone else. So they're in this complicated situation where they refuse to commit, but they refuse to allow this person to commit to anyone else, is what I'm hearing. She continues, even though you ain't mine, I promise the way we fight make me honestly feel like we just in love, because baby, when push comes to shove, bleep, baby, I'm a train wreck too. I lose my mind when it comes to you. I take time with the ones I choose, and I don't want to smile if it ain't from you. So basically she's saying, we have a really messed up relationship and we have nasty fights, but I feel like this is love because she probably never really learned what real love is. Real love isn't fighting and making each other miserable. You need to be compatible, have similar values to push forward, and also be able to commit, which it doesn't sound like you're able to. And then she says, I want to kiss you. Yeah, I don't want to miss you. Yeah, but I can't be without you because I got issues. Oh, so she's got codependency issues. Oh, at least she's being honest about it. Continuing, yeah, on the surface, seems like it's easy, careful with my words, but it's hard to read me. Stress high when the trust's low, bad vibes, where'd the fun go? Try to open up and love more, try to open up and love more. If you were my boyfriend and you were my girlfriend, I probably wouldn't see nobody else, but I can't guarantee that myself. Okay. So translating this to English, they have a high stress relationship, and they are saying that it's pure bad vibes apparently, and that the fun is gone from this relationship, but they're still holding on tight, holding on tight. Also, they're saying that if you were my girlfriend and we were boyfriend girlfriend, that, hey, I don't want you to see anybody else, but I can't promise that I won't see anyone else. So essentially, you have to be faithful to me, but hey, I'm gonna sleep around with whoever the heck I want. That's how that song went. And we wonder why we have a hookup culture. Because our American public, especially our youth, listen to trash music like this. Why is this song so popular? Why are so many people putting this disgusting trash music in their head? Do yourself a favor. This song comes on, change the station. You don't need this kind of trash in your head. Because what plays in your head, whether you think you know all the lyrics or not, what plays in your head is the soundtrack to your life, and your subconscious will embrace it, okay? I've talked about that in depth in other podcast episodes. Go check it out. We're going to take a quick question. It's from Arizona Homeschooler. She says, how could your mom manage to homeschool on top of being a single mom and all the pressures and stresses you talk about in her story on your Instagram post? What compelled her to homeschool? This is a great question for her, actually. Maybe sometime I'll bring her on the podcast and she can answer this question. But the long and the short of it is she knew that she wanted her children to be raised in a God-centered home, in a home that taught godly principles, and you weren't really going to find that in the public schools near us, or most public schools, I would say. And I think she also just knew she wanted, I think a huge reason is she wanted us to love learning. She wanted us to embrace and be crazy about learning and reading and discovery. And for the most part, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to disagree with me, I believe that the public school really doesn't foster a love of learning. They kind of crush it and smother at a young age, not on purpose, but just because it's all too much. And I don't think that they have the best teaching methods. And it's also, as she used to explain to other people who weren't familiar with homeschooling, public schooling is a circle. It's a circle, and if you don't fit in that circle, then you might fall by the wayside. So, but the only thing is there's only so many circle learning personalities. There's squares and triangles and ovals too, and they're not going to fit in the circle. And so she felt like homeschooling was the best chance of her children getting the best education that they could. So how did she deal with it and the pressures? She did a lot of supplemented learning too. So as a single mom, we actually did do like reading classes, or we did a little bit of like a couple days a week, went to a private school, or we had like tutors from time to time to do core subjects with us. So she did it very creatively. Every semester was a little different. It just depended on where we're at and what our needs were and what she could swing. So there you go. That's that. Now we're going to end with good in the world. Now, I hesitated to do this as a good in the world story because it's not necessarily the warm and fuzzy kind of story I'd usually do, but I just felt like it's appropriate. After last week's horrific mass murders and those 2 shootings that happened last weekend, I felt like this showed that it's community. It's community that we can rely on. We can come together and call evil evil, and come together and protect the innocent, and we can come together and do good in our community. And I think that bravery should be celebrated, and that's why I'm sharing this story as the good in the world, because this is me celebrating brave men and women who are serving their community. Essentially what happened is an off-duty firefighter who had a firearm with him stopped a potential attack from taking place at a Walmart in Missouri after a 20-year-old man showed up to the store with a rifle, body armor, and over 100 rounds of ammunition. quote, his intent was not to cause peace or comfort to anybody that was in the business, Lieutenant Mike Lucas said with the Springfield Police Department. In fact, he's lucky to be alive still, to be honest. Although it's not yet clear what this man's intent was, Lucas said, we definitely have crimes here. Lucas said there may have been a Facebook Live posted by the suspect and that law enforcement officials are conducting an investigation and looking through the suspect's social media. KOLR news anchor tweeted, 20-year-old man with rifle, handgun, and body armor arrested at Walmart on Republic SFD. Police say he had 100 plus rounds of ammunition. Off-duty firefighter with concealed carry gun held at gunpoint until officers arrived about 3 minutes later. An off-duty fireman put his community first. He used his concealed carry right to carry provided by our Second Amendment to potentially save lives, potentially, whether it's one life or dozens of lives. He is a brave man and should be celebrated for that. And I honest to goodness think that whether you agree with those shouting about gun control or not, the best thing we can do together is come together, call evil evil when we see it and face it straight on, and then do what we can to bring our community together, truly. And this man, I think in his own way did. He's protecting people. And I love that. And I think that more of us can do that. If you are able to carry a firearm, you are a stable, healthy person who is willing to take on that great responsibility and be safe and learn firearm safety, then you should do that, because it's a good guy with a gun that stops a bad guy with a gun. God bless this man. God bless you. God bless America.